The $25,000 plan. Now, keep in mind that this is a long time ago where this leadership principle came up with the dollar amount. So inflation would greatly increase this to maybe something like $75,000 or $100,000 plan. But years ago, there was a CEO that brought in a consultant to tell him how in the world he could make his company more efficient, more profitable, of course. And so the consultant went through and he met with all the C-level leaders and all the management suite and went through and carefully and dutifully interviewed them all to find out what the culture was like, what was being the daily experience of the leadership of the organization as well as the frontline workers. And he came back to the CEO upon completion of this survey of the individuals in the organization. And the CEO was excited and he said, "Well, what have you found? How can we improve what we're doing?" And the consultant told him very simply that every single leader in his organization, from low management, middle management, all the way up, what they needed to do is the first few minutes of the day, they needed to create a to-do list, prioritize it, and then start working through that list in their day. The CEO was like, okay, and he wrote that down and he said, "What else?" And the consultant said, "That's it." And the CEO looked a little bit nonplussed and said, "That's it? There's nothing else?" And the guy goes, "Nope, that's what your company needs to do." He could tell that the CEO was not that impressed by this single bullet point of what they should be doing after he spent all this time and effort and energy to interview. And so when the CEO asked, "Well, how much do we owe you for your consultant fee?" The consultant said, "Well, tell you what, why don't you wait and employ that one thing I told you to do? And after 6 months, let me know how much it was worth to your company." So 6 months later, the consultant received a check for $25,000. Now, like I said, take inflation into account. This one principle can revolutionize anyone's life, let alone any organization's culture and effectiveness and efficiency. Oftentimes, the enemy of what you're wanting to achieve is people going about being busy doing good things. And you're like, "Pastor John, what in the world is wrong with people being busy going around doing good things?" Well, because they're not doing the very best thing they should be doing. They're not prioritizing their to-do list. They're just going through and doing things. And quite often, much like people at buffets where you eat steak and ice cream and you skip the vegetables and you skip the potatoes and you skip all the things that will fill you up prematurely and reduce the amount of steak and ice cream you can eat, many people left to their own devices will not do those things which are most important, but they will do those things which they most enjoy, or those things which they are best at, or those things that the company doesn't most need. And so in your life, in your day-to-day existence, create a to-do list, prioritize that list, and then start working through that list. It will give you motivation, it will give you energy, and it will make sure that that motivation and energy is not being spent on pet projects, but on prioritized tasks that need to be accomplished. The $25,000 plan. Make a to-do list, prioritize it, and then work according to that priority. I would add to that if this is a to-do list that stretches beyond that day, or maybe even in that day, you should calendarize that list. And I don't know about your job, I don't know what your schedule is like, but my schedule is pretty much left up to me to determine. And others get scheduled throughout. My secretary has the ability to schedule meetings within certain blocks of time that I've given her. But if you don't go in and schedule the things that have to be done throughout the week, other things get scheduled in that time frame, and so you're doing everybody else's stuff, but you're not getting your stuff done. So once you've done the to-do list, Then prioritize what needs to be done. Then stick it in your calendar. Mark that. Like if it's going to take you 35 minutes to an hour, put it in for an hour and 15 minutes, and make sure that it makes its way into your calendar so that you get the most important things done. So when somebody calls your secretary and asks to meet with you, they can honestly say, well, his next available time is 3 days from now at about 11 a.m. Does that work for you? And that way, all the things you have to get done actually do get done.